Where's the, thank you. All right. Okay, can you hear me? Perfect. All right, thank you, Mike. I would like to begin by talking about a topic which is very important, success. We're going to go through a few things today. How should you measure success? How do you make good decisions about where you should invest your dollars? Review some benchmarks on key metrics, and talk about how you can make your marketing dollars work harder for you. Now, before we get into the very complex topic of what is success, an open-ended question, I'd like to share some facts. As Kanika mentioned earlier today, there are about 7.4 billion human beings on the planet, and just under half of them are internet users, 3.4 billion. 2.3 billion are active social media users, just under 1/3. Both of those groups have grown by 10% since January of last year. Now, there are about 3.8 billion unique mobile users, by which we define as people with a cell phone, whether or not they use it to access the internet. They could just use it for calls. All of this leads to the group on the far right. There are nearly 2 billion active mobile social users in the world today. That's a huge market. It's over 1/4 of every human on the earth, 27%. And you'll notice those numbers on the bottom, that particular segment has grown the most out of these four since last January, 17%. It's not slowing down either. By 2020, in less than 4 years, there will be over 6 billion smartphones. So what do we learn from this? Well, there's a new digital channel emerging. Devices are proliferating quite quickly. There's being a shift in your marketing model from push to pull. Now users are coming to you to ask what you can do for them. And finally, customer behavior is evolving. And with it, the search engine result page is evolving. We're going to get into that a little bit later. On this next slide, I want you to watch carefully because it's an animation that takes you through what we believe to be a typical customer journey from their first becoming aware of a product or a company to eventually converting. Now you notice this is complicated. It involves multiple devices. Perhaps they come in on a phone and book on a desktop, multiple channels, PPC, organic, multiple visits, and then finally, multiple stages of the customer journey process. This is a complex problem to solve, and especially when you look at it like this. I wouldn't necessarily know how to make heads or tails of this initially, but it gets a lot easier when you break it into 4 different stages. You can see on the right, we saw this graphic earlier, it serves to illustrate that how many touch points exist for the customer today. And we've broken it into 4 stages. Now, I realize the text is a little bit small, so I'll just read these for you. First stage is awareness. Second is consideration. Third is engagement. And that finally leads to the 4th, conversion. Now, awareness begins when someone, in a basic way, you could say, once a user sees your result in a search results page, they have entered the awareness stage. They are now cognizant that your company exists. And if they click on that link, they have now entered the consideration phase. You've convinced them to investigate a little bit further. Once they click around on your site, finding out what you have to offer, perhaps filling out a form to request more information, now they're engaging with your site in the engagement phase. And of course, finally, when they finally book, they are well into the conversion stage. So as you can see in this table, all 4 of these stages can really interact with a variety of mediums, a variety of different channels. They might see you mentioned on Twitter for part of the awareness stage. Breaking this very complex customer journey model into 4 stages is helpful. It's great as a first step towards solving multi-channel and the multi-stage journey. You can use this to identify low and high performing segments and then improve on them. And finally, you can quantify their performance at a granular level and come up with an action plan to optimize it. Now, I mentioned earlier another issue that we face today, which is as customers evolve, the search engine result page has grown to evolve as well. And we're going to take a look at Google here. And back in 2005, a Google results page was simply entry after entry after entry of text, wall of text, so to speak. But then Google started innovating. And I'm going to read these off since I know the bottom of this slide is a little bit difficult probably to see. Google began adding the local listings right rail map, thumbnail images with a star rating, a carousel for paid listings, and then 4 in particular that we want to concentrate on today. The first, mobile-specific search engine results page. I have a perfectly fitted group of results that fits on my phone. It's optimized for the screen, very, very aesthetically pleasing, and easy to navigate. The knowledge graph, where if I type in a client's name, a lot of information such as phone numbers and location just pops up on Google, not necessarily, meaning they don't necessarily need to go any farther than that search results page to find out what they want to need to, or what they wish to know. The 3-pack listing, that was another innovation. And finally, direct answers. If you type in what is the phone number for X hotel or whatnot, or does this hotel have a spa, there are tailor-made responses that will pop up and show you what you need to know. Now, all 4 of these last changes to the search engine result page have only enhanced the answerability, actionability, and brand awareness of a given company's results. Brand awareness, especially in the sense of the knowledge graph. You know, having that information pop up at them it cuts seconds out of their day, which may not seem like a lot, but it's one less step, and you give them the information directly. Now, with these new changes in the search engine result page come a new way to look at the analytics of them. I love analytics, I love data, and we have several new sources of data. Everything from the Google Search Console to Bing Places to phone tracking data to local data and reviews. These are all brand new sources, or not necessarily brand new, but new sources we must consider when making decisions based on data. They have their own set of metrics, anything from search impressions to the impression to conversion ratio to phone call clicks. And being able to unify all of these metrics in a single place to create actionable insights is crucial. The final topic we want to cover in this particular section is called dark traffic. Now, dark traffic in a very general sense is traffic which appears usually as direct, but is in fact came from another source. So for example, a couple years ago, Google began encrypting searches when someone was logged into a Google property. So I stay on Gmail frequently on my browser, so that means every Google search I do, if it results in a click to a web page, yields no referrer information. Or very little. This strips the referrer data and makes me appear in, for example, a Google Analytics report as direct traffic. Now, direct traffic is challenging because, of course, there's not a lot of information that accompanies it for us to delve into. Groupon was interested in this, so they did an experiment. They de-indexed their pages from Google, and they found that their direct traffic dropped by 60%. So that's quite a lot. Over half of their direct traffic was in fact organic. For milestone clients, we typically see that between 10 and 20%. Noticing trends like this also allows us to look into different ways to try to narrow in on that traffic, even if it is direct. So for example, you can use an advanced segment in Google Analytics. If your landing page exactly matches whatever your home page is, and the source is direct, well, not all that traffic will be organic, but it gives you another way to look at the data, another way to slice and dice. So now that we've discussed how to measure success, I'd like to turn it over to Gaurav to describe how you can make some decisions on where to invest your money.
Thank you, John. So John very well covered 3 major challenges analytics is facing today as of dark traffic, SERP evolution, and the first one was about the mapping the complex customer journey. So Milestone is working towards solutions for those because we feel like it's very imperative to have analytics in sync with the analytics challenges we see, right? In the next section, what I will cover is how you use analytics to identify or determine what is the ROI or whether our dollars we are investing are yielding any results we are expecting or not. So I'll cover two techniques. First is marketing analytics attribution, where the challenge is with complex customer journey, typically customers are never converting in first visit or first touch point. So they go through, like you see in the bottom, the example where a customer before converting go through like 6 different touch points or 6 visits. Some of them can be from same channels or they can be from different channels. So it becomes really difficult if you're getting $100 from this conversion, you want to allocate that 100 conversion whether to organic or to referral or to direct, right? Because you have spent money across different channels. So there's a conflict of interest over there. So that's the marketing attribution problem. And we need to understand this to make sure we really understand what is yielding us right results, and you can make in future more insightful decisions on spending your marketing spend. So you can see in the example, in typical Google Analytics or Omniture, you would see $100 for this conversion, all credit will go to organic channel, even though you have paid for 2 times for paid impressions and three times for paid impressions and 1 time for referral. So that's the problem we are solving. How do we solve this problem? Now, this is a type of problem which doesn't have a wrong or right answer, or there is no silver bullet. However, what we can do is we can try to unearth the reality or the real story underlying that conversion. So I'll try to read it for you. I think the text is small. So I'm focusing on the first record, the organic search. You can see I'm comparing 3 attribution models side by side: first interaction, last interaction, and position based. First interaction will always attribute the 100% value for that conversion to the channel from which customer came leading to that conversion. So for example, in previous it was paid search, so it would get 100% credit to paid search. Last interaction model would always give 100% credit to the visit or the channel that lead to customer for conversion. It was organic search in our previous example. So third is position based, which basically gives higher weightage to the channels early part of the journey and the later part of the journey. So like 80% weightage is given to those channels which are on those parts of the journey, and 20% is split across the middle channels. There are 4 other default models used by Omniture and Google Analytics, but to illustrate the use of this technique, I'll just compare those 3. So you can see the organic search, based on last interaction, you see it shows us around 131K. Based on first interaction, it shows us the organic search has value of 150K, and position-based model shows us the value of 140K. So what it means is organic search is really very influential when it comes to acquiring new customers. It's logical also. In terms of the position-based, you see we got 140K, which means organic search channel occupies really crucial slots in the whole customer journey conversion flow process. So another interesting fact on this particular diagram is if you look at the second row, direct, and under last interaction, you would see, I think it's somewhere around 69K. But as you go towards last interaction to first interaction to position-based, that number goes down, which means direct is really good at having chance of last channel for conversion. But logically, you can think of people, how would you acquire people through direct? You would acquire either if they are aware of your brand, like Hilton.com, or it can be dark traffic, because there is no referral information to analytics tools. So there are not many scenarios you would get new customers through direct. So this particular analysis helps us to understand what channel is contributing to what part of the funnel. And typically, you would see always organic channel occupying key slots in the whole customer journey. So this is one of the creative, easy, simple answer for a complex marketing problem of attribution. Second thing, a lot of people think, maybe not here, a lot of people think organic search, organic traffic you get is free. Or even if you don't do anything, Google search will always put your site at somewhere in first page or second page. But that's not the case, because there's a lot of competition to have your site in at least top 10 slots. So it becomes really important to understand how much money are you saving or how much money you would have invested to get your listing in top 10 search engine results. So we are working in Milestone on algorithm to have it in the Analytics, where we'll show you how much media saving you are doing just because of the organic efforts Milestone's team is making for you guys, or in general, it's algorithm that will give you quantifiable value of the traffic you get through the organic channel. You don't get that in Google Analytics or Omniture or a lot of other tools. On the right side, we'll also show you the potential opportunity or potential growth in the traffic or conversions you can have by increasing your spend in organic channel. So that's more like future moving forward, what extra you can do, how much extra you can spend, and what ROI you can get from the organic investments. So those are the two techniques. And this is another ambitious project Milestone is working on. It's basically showing the overall customer journey in a very actionable format. It's difficult to read, so I'll go over the widgets. There are 4 main widgets here. The first top one is going to show you, it will help you to compare the absolute value of metrics, which can be search engine impressions or Twitter mentions, or it can be traffic visits to your site. So depending on what stage of the customer journey you choose, you will have absolute numbers for your property versus your competitor or the benchmark. And below that, the orange bar will show you, in the last year, how were you in those metrics compared to your benchmark. On the right side, it's the same widget, but it's showing you the conversion ratio for those key metrics. Like, say, on the left side, you have impressions. Right side will tell you impression to click ratio. How was it for you versus your competitor this year and last year? So how it helps is it is going to the most granular level you can go. If you think of marketing funnel, you have channels, medium, sources. Now within sources, you have metrics. For example, take example of PPC, right? The marketing channel is paid marketing. The medium is PPC. Source is Google. Now, by looking at source Google level, you will not be able to identify whether you're not getting higher impressions or you're not getting higher click-throughs. So that visualization will help you to understand what is not working at particular source level also. So those are the 2 widgets. And the third one below that is the diagram with pipes. That will help you to understand the relative performance of your marketing efforts, whether you want to compare performance at channel level, medium level, source level. You'll be able to see the relative thickness of those pipes to understand what is working best as compared to the other. So, and below that, you will see the raw data based on whatever you choose in the middle diagram. So that's what customer journey we are working on. So benchmarks, I'll cover a few benchmarks, which are informational but still insightful. So we basically looked into a lot of independent properties we serve, and we sort of came up with 2 high-level metrics, time on site and contributed social conversion ratio. We feel like 2.2 minutes is the average session duration we have for all the visitors who land on our independent sites. On the right side, we did another study where we divided a lot of independent properties into 4 markets: destination, select service, city market, upscale, city market, small hotels. And what we found is, on an average, we are yielding 25% lead conversion ratio, which means people who visit the site after seeing people who are landed on the site to people who actually clicked on the click book now or reservation button. So that's 25% is benchmark for all those 4 markets. And the actual conversion ratio, which is actual bookings to the sessions, that's around 1.5%. So I can explain you more about this, guys. You guys can connect me on the detail of this. So this particular slide, I want to share you the relative contribution of different channels we are seeing in all our independent properties. On the left chart, you can see contribution of organic channels. Say 43% of sessions we drive to the sites are because of the organic channel, and 21% by direct and 18% by referral. However, if you look at right side, it's interesting to see 52% of lead conversions are actually coming from organic channel. And you see the ratio for direct and referral for conversion is lower than organic by significant amount. So what it means is the quality of the traffic which will drive to your sites through organic channel is significantly higher than what you get through the other channels. So that's another insight you get by doing the overall study. So in this slide, I wanted to share the seasonality trend we observe. So the orange line is RFP submissions for the studied customers for wedding or meetings bookings. So you can see that there's a tick up starts around April, and there's a huge bump around August, and then it subsides. So that's a typical trend we see for a lot of independent hotels we serve. On the blue line, which is lead conversion ratio, people who click on books divided by number of visits to the site, we see the tick up starts around the summer season start, around April, and there is another tick up around the month of November. So those are seasonality trend we are observing for lead conversion ratio and RFP submissions on the site. So next part I'll cover it's a new evolving technique called conversion rate optimization, which helps you to basically drive higher incremental value for small investment. So Milestone has been doing research studies on this process, and we have been working on this technique for the last 3 months, and I'll share some of the results for some of the tests we have done on the sites. So it's called conversion rate optimization. It's about understanding your site from heat map, click map, move map, Google Analytics, and just basically looking at all the data aspects and identifying the impact places on the site that if you test for minor variations would yield you a significantly higher ROI. So it's about fetching maximum value out of customers who have already landed on your site. So where can we use it? So there are three use cases. One is split URL or redirect test. Suppose you are working on revamping or redesign of the site with us. We can have multiple variations of the landing page, which altogether can look totally different. And we can do a split URL test, so 50% people get that and the other one. And you can identify what is working best from there. So the second is A/B test, which is for already existing web pages. You want to test things like shape of the button, size of the button, caption on the button, changing the content from X to Y. So you can test design, content, layout, and you can find what is working best for your site. Multivariate is where you want to test multiple changes in one test. For example, you want to test green versus red button, oval versus square button, and maybe book now versus book a room button. So multiple, 3 or more, or 2 or more changes simultaneously in one test. It will tell you whether 1 or 2 or 3, a combination of what those changes is going to yield best results, whether just change of the shape and the size, or change of the shape, color, and caption. All 3 are needed, so you will get that insight from this type of test. So these are the key metrics. We focus on CRO. KPIs are reservation goals, RFP submissions, and then there are metrics focusing on how the page performance has increased, as well as the lowest one is in the purple color are the actual engagement metrics, which can also be your KPI depending upon what you're trying to do. So in the next slide, I'll be sharing some of the test results we have achieved so far. So this is one of the customer. So this is the default design for Chase Park Plaza homepage. This is a beautiful page, award-winning site. What we found is it looks like little photo gallery. There is no information conveyed by images why that particular module is unique. What is the selling point for that module? So and the second is, looking at this page, I feel like this is the end of the page, so I won't scroll down. Based on heat map studies, we found 85% of people don't scroll down the up below the fold. So we tested 2 changes on this page. One was hover over images will show you that result, and the second is we put that little button at the right side, which will tell you can scroll down. So amazingly, what we saw, these minor changes, we saw 40% increment, 40% lift in people who click on those images, means they are going to those modules from the home page, which is a very, very high lift. and 10% higher clicks on the Book Now button. So 10% higher lift in the lead conversion ratio, which is very, very high lift, actually. So this was first test. The second test we did on the wedding page of the same property, where we changed the layout from the left side, where we saw the image at the top of the fold, and then some really useful information below that. So we changed it to new layout, where we put very concise two-line content above the fold, and then call to action buttons in the second. You can see it. It's the second black box. Those has button likes, audio visual, book a wedding, or other things. And below that, we have we layout the content in a different format, like 3 bullets on the right side, few information in the middle, and picture on the left side, and then all other gallery. So we saw with these changes, we saw 12% increase in people who are clicking on the details to book marriage, like floor plans for the venue. 8% increase in people who are clicking to inquire what the catering service is. 39% for audiovisual, and 2% for Book Now clicks, which are all amazing results, considering what we are testing is not rocket science, but trying to optimize things that can create a lot of impact. So this is another property we tested, River and Irith. And what we did was we moved the reservation widget from bottom to the top. And surprisingly, with such a small change, we saw 40% increase in check availability clicks or book nows, and 30% people who actually start the funnel by clicking on the check-in of the reservation widget. So these are amazing results, considering what we are trying to do is not doing a lot of like research or something. It's trying to find the right opportunities on the site using tools like heat map, scroll map, or Google Analytics. This is another property. This is totally amazing. All we changed in this case was the color of the button from black to orange. With that minor change, we have seen 2% increase in the engagement and 11% increase in the click reservations, which is significant. So these are some of the examples we have tested for last few months, and we have established the process in Milestone. You can inquire more about this particular offering with AMs. So this is the process, very high level. This is the process we follow. We explore your site first using heat map, Google Analytics, or other platforms. Find the right opportunities, get approval from the client, define the scope of the test, description, specifications, configure the test in the tool, design the recipes or scripts or whatever changes we need to make on the variation, and eventually run it, monitor it, and present the results to you. So that's a 6-step process we follow in Milestone. And then these are examples of how a typical split test works. Customers make a request, and then they can see 50% would see the default, 50% would see the new variation, and then you get the results from Google Analytics as well as the A/B tool. This is another example of A/B test, how it works. That's all from us. Thank you.